CDC and FDA are now looking into safety concerns over strokes in people aged 65 and older who received Pfizer's booster vaccine. The CDC agency saying, quote, although the totality of the data currently suggests that this is very unlikely that the signal in VSD represents a true clinical risk, we believe it's important to share this information with the public. Here to react is former CDC director, Dr. Robert Redfield. Doctor, thank you for being here. Looking at it even from a larger level, this is a recent revelation, but the CDC sort of begrudgingly acknowledged risks for young men and myocarditis and heart issues. Is the CDC releasing enough information to make sure people are aware of the possible risks?
You know, Pete, I think they are. I mean, they have several surveillance systems to monitor vaccine safety, all types of vaccines, not just COVID vaccines. And what you have here is one of the near real-time systems they have, which is the vaccine safety data link, did show a slight increase in risk of ischemic stroke in individuals over the age of 65 that received the Pfizer vaccine 21 days or less, as compared to people that had received the vaccine, say, 22 days to 42 days. So there was a slight signal for increased ischemic events. Now, this is complicated, Pete, because COVID itself, one of the major mechanisms where it causes morbidity and mortality is actually by causing intravascular coagulation and stroke. And so this is what they're looking at. And they didn't see it with the Moderna vaccine. They haven't seen it in other databases that the CDC has, and they haven't seen it when they've looked at databases in some of the European systems. But they wanted to be transparent. It's there. Let the public know that they did see this signal.
You mentioned the word transparent, Doctor. Well, Dr. Fauci was on with Neil Cavuto on our program this week, had this to say about transparency. Watch.
I've been completely, totally, 100% honest about everything. Could there have been a lab leak? We keep open all possibilities, but if you look at the accumulating evidence from very well-respected evolutionary virologists published in peer-reviewed journals, the evidence very strongly points to this being a natural occurrence of a jump from an animal species to a human.
In your opinion, is he being 100% honest and transparent?
No, I think people know that I disagree with Tony on this pretty aggressively. I think that his approach and Colin's approach has really been antithetical to science. Normally, when science approaches a problem, we have different hypotheses, and we rigorously debate them, and we let the data stand for what it does. This has been really much more aggressive in forming a narrative, which unfortunately NIH has been very important in leading that narrative, that somehow this was a spillover event. I think people know, I think as a clinical virologist, it's much more likely that this virus was educated how to infect humans, and that education happened in a laboratory. And the ultimate etiology of this pandemic was unfortunately a laboratory leak.
That's refreshing to hear, because it does feel like we've been hearing a lot of spin and a lot of narrative, which makes it tough to trust the CDC, which is the only place you want to turn in a moment like this. Dr. Robert Redfield, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, Pete, I mean, it goes down to the original report when my counterpart, George Gao, in China, CDC director, reported this came out of the wet market. His case definition was that people had a flu-like illness that wasn't flu that came from the wet market. So by definition, everybody came from the wet market. And we now know that this pandemic actually started in Wuhan somewhere between August and October. It really had nothing to do with the wet market. And this has been just an aggressive narrative, unfortunately, that NIH has aggressively put forth, which, again, I go back to say, it's just antithetical to science. Science should have rigorous debate, take people like me that have a different opinion and let my voice be heard, and they have their voice be heard, and let's argue it out scientifically. Let's not pontificate a single narrative.